From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, federal government asks Nigerians to tighten their belts ahead of tougher economic challenges. Also proposes new oil benchmark of $73 per barrel. Bomb explodes in a GSM market in Azare, Bauchi State. Over 13 people killed. Tension mounts in Lafia, Nasarawa State following the alleged killing of a traditional ruler. And captured U.S. worker Abdul Rahman Kasig reportedly murdered by Islamic State militants. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Dr. Okonjo-iweala, today appealed to Nigerians to tighten their belts ahead of the stringent economic measures being proposed by the federal government. This new development follows a drop in oil price in the global market. Dr. Iweala says the Federal Executive Council is proposing a new benchmark for 2015 budget for $73 per barrel, against the $78 per barrel awaiting approval by the National Assembly. Dr. Iweala told journalists in Abuja today that the austerity measures being proposed are meant to cushion the effects of the oil price drop. She said government will increase revenue collection targets for the Federal Inland Revenue Service from 75 to 160 billion naira.
As we speak, prices are still trending down, and there are some estimates that say that this may continue to go down, but nobody is sure where it will end up. Under those circumstances, the best way to manage is to have a scenario-based approach, which we talked about 2 weeks ago when we returned from the World Bank IMF annual meetings. If people would recall, the finance correspondents will recall that we talked about saying if it falls to this level, we will have this set of measures. If it falls to the next level, we'll have another set of measures to complement what we did in the beginning. And that's the way we are going to approach it in the country. That's the scenario-based approach that we're taking. So what we want to do today is first start by telling you that the first thing we did after we submitted the MTEF, recall that when we submitted the MTEF to the National Assembly, oil prices were still around $85, $86 a barrel, you recall, and we proposed a benchmark of 78. Shortly after we submitted and they looked at this, prices began to fall. And we wanted to wait a little bit before doing anything, just to see the trend. That's why you've not heard from us. You know, when you're going to do things, you don't do them in a rush. You have to see where prices are trending and whether it's going to stop or continue. And we think now that the trend has been down and is likely to continue to be down. So what we've done is that we are going to propose, and I say propose, we are proposing a new benchmark price to the National Assembly. This is what we'll be sending to them for consideration. Remember that we sent to them and they determine the final price. But I imagine that with the current situation the way it is, hopefully we will have a meeting of minds. We are proposing a benchmark price of $73 a barrel. And based on that, we've revised the entire medium-term expenditure framework. So for 2015, we're proposing $73 a barrel. We've decided to maintain the same quantities after due discussion, so we'll be doing this still at 2.27 million barrels per day. Of course, this will mean a drop in projected oil revenues from 7.287 trillion naira to 6.833 trillion, which will also indicate that we need to do something about aggregate expenditure.
Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Dr. Okonjo-iweala, on the new austerity measures being proposed by the federal government. The Finance Minister also says that there is need to cut down on the expenditure of government if the new measures being proposed will work. She said governments must learn to be prudent and shut out all unnecessary expenditures for 2015. Our correspondent Aloma-Mukhtar reports.
These are not very good times for oil-producing countries as global prices of the commodity continues to fall since the second quarter of 2014. The Minister of Finance, the Director General of Budget Office, Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Accountant General of the Federation at this news conference calmed nerves, saying panic is not a strategy. The economic team said Nigeria must now be prudent, save and build buffers preparatory to manage additional falling prices. Alongside the drop in the benchmark for 2015 with the total revision of the medium-term expenditure framework, Dr. Okonjo-iweala said total revenue for the Federation, especially aggregate expenditure, will be grossly impacted.
That we are going to look at government spending very critically within this 2015 budget and going into the medium term. We have discussed with His Excellency, Mr. President, and will be proposing measures to curb, let's say, expenditures within the budget on new equipment and items like that will be severely curtailed, except for what is strictly necessary. We're going to look at travel. Travel is quite extensive within the budget. We will also consider looking at surcharges to raise additional revenue on certain luxury items. The idea is that those Nigerians who are well off, should contribute a bit more to making the economy or the government coffers more robust.
The Finance Minister said despite the extensive look at the budget to reduce expenditure while increasing revenue generation, investment in critical areas must continue, such as infrastructure development, job creation and human capital development, agriculture, housing, health, education and security with clear priorities. She said all policy measures introduced will have ordinary citizens as a primary concern. Austerity Channels Television News.
And as Nigerians await to feel the impact of the new austerity measures, some young Nigerians say that the best way to remain relevant in the present situation is to own your own business. Our correspondent Gloria Omezoko in our next report examines issues of self-employment raised at a young entrepreneurship summit held in Abuja.
This has become a common sight in a country where unemployment stands at 24%. The majority are under the age of 35, often without basic skills. Unemployment in Nigeria has been made worse by an education system described by many as in turmoil. Nigeria clearly has one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the world, and while the government tries its own solutions, entrepreneurs are coming up with new ideas to tackle the problem.
Every economy in the world is driven by small and medium-sized enterprises. So we need to create businesses, and there are gaps, there are opportunities to create businesses. And we distinguish between an entrepreneur and a businessman or a hustler. You know, being an entrepreneur means that you see an opportunity, you see a problem, you develop an idea that's creative, customer relation strategy, all aspects are right, and then you launch it. Money is actually the least of the problems. A lot of young people say, I need money to start a business, and I tell them, no, you just need a good idea.
You should be able to be a creative thinker, a problem solver, you should have communication skills. So these are skills that I feel that we're lacking among young people.
The enthusiasm is high at different fora. Young people who are yet to get employment or trying to float a business interact with the hope of becoming their own bosses. 35-year-old Irene is a publisher and owner of a cosmetic and hair business. She is one among a few young Nigerians who runs a thriving business. She believes that young graduates should not be found roaming the streets in search of any kind of job.
Create enough job for the youth. So we feel government should take manufacturing as an important issue and stabilize our manufacturing sector, and also to encourage entrepreneurs who create employment. There are a lot of challenges entrepreneurs face, which with an enabling environment, they ought not to have faced that. But if government is there to support us, we could do a whole lot better. They should create an enabling environment where a lot of entrepreneurs should go into manufacturing. That is one of the major ways of reducing unemployment in our society.
Well, just as organizations and entrepreneurs seek new approaches to help young people find work, the creation of a National Directorate of Employment, the SUREP, UWIN, among others, are some of the various intervention programs the government put in place to ensure economic growth that is rich with job creation opportunities. But how effective are they in addressing the core challenge of unemployment remains the big question. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, scores killed in Azare, Bauchi State as a blast occurs at a market in the state. Please join us again for details.